everyone, and welcome to Having to Roll, the podcast. I'm sorry, did I completely shock you there, Robin?
I was like, oh, we're going live in a second. I went to yawn, and then you're like, hello, everyone. I was like, oh,
Yeah, let's go.
Awake.
Energy. Come on, be professional. You've got to turn it on when it's on.
It's on.
Welcome, everybody. My name's Oliver. I'm joined, as always, by Robin, and today we're continuing our recap of Empire event number 3, the summer solstice, and this is part 3. So make sure and go back and watch the other two parts if you already.
Yeah,
haven't.
you'll never catch up otherwise.
You never catch up. You've got it, but it's good. Even if you've listened to them before, maybe just re-listen to them, and maybe you'll find little kind of nuggets as well. You never know. You never know unless you don't try. A couple of people, well, a few people actually reached out to me after the last episode about the Brock's Toll situation that I was ranting about, and it seemed like it was a good thing I was ranting about it, because I think a few people shared my sentiments. A few people wanted to make sure that I understood, because I had said that I felt like it didn't count, and the reason I said I felt like it didn't count is because that seemed to be the thing I was hearing the most in whatever like social media echo chamber I was sat in. I kept hearing from other people about Brock's Toll online, and just passively reading about Brock's Toll. People were going, oh, it didn't count. It shouldn't have happened. It didn't count. So that's why I felt like, oh, well, it didn't count. But apparently I was corrected, and a few people said apparently it did count because the position wasn't, i.e. so it's a player position. It's basically a toll bridge, right? No, it is a toll bridge. That is controlled, so it gives you whatever resource it gives. So a player is in charge of that, like we did with like the All East Garden before. But apparently the position was completely empty. Usually it takes place at summer. I have no idea why it was empty. Probably because of the longest dark or something, COVID or something. I don't know. But so it did technically count the first time. I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that we knew that now. However, everything. My issue is still, the issues that I have is still the same with it, you know. And quite a few people messaged me to say, yeah, we kind of, we totally get what you're saying. So hopefully, we'll either get something done about it or, think of something else.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I mean, Brock's Toll seems to be this sort of weird conversation that as soon as you say it, people seem to have very strong views either way. But I really enjoyed it. I just had so much fun fighting with the marchers, or fighting against the marchers. But still, it was a lot of fun. There was just Yeah,
I mean that's what I said at the end of the last episode. It was that there is something there. It's not as if it's, oh, this isn't fun, so therefore let's not do it. Like there's definitely something there.
Oh yeah, there's this want to, come compete and have some fun.
Also, I apologize. My dog is just absolutely flat out, and every now and again she's like doing big snores. So just in case that comes through on the the audio, especially audio only listeners, just in case it's not Robin being bored by my ramblings. Although I assure you it isn't.
It might be. It might be on some of them.
It might be. I will also say as well, like we were talking about being tanky last time. So the fact that we felt tanky because we had 7 and 8 hit points. I do understand also that that's not tanky compared to a lot of other players that have been around a while. I just meant we were very tanky compared to, for our third event, bearing in mind that Aranel went out at E1, went out to the battlefield with 2 hit points, 0 armor, and 2 base hit points, 2 universal hit points.
With a little dagger and a short sword.
With a short sword and a fucking dagger. So it was more relative to that I was like, yeah, we were tanky this time. Because, there are people with, if you've been around a while, you've got a lot of experience points, and people have put that into endurance, and then they've got magic items that they've collected, and you can get double figure hit points quite easily. But yeah, it was like a relative thing to what we'd already experienced, because even me at E1, I was walking around a lot of the time just with my Gambison on, which gave me like an extra 2, which I didn't know at the
Yeah,
time.
you didn't even know that at the
No.
time. Yeah, you were like walking around being like, oh, I've only got 2 hit points. And
Yeah.
then you found out after that
Yeah.
your Gambison also gave you armor.
Yeah, because I got a Gambison and then I have my like leg padding as well, which counts as light armor, so which gives you 2 extra hits. But so I was walking around a lot of the time at E2 being like, yeah, I thought, man, you're really squishy in this game. But if you're wearing the right stuff, you know, and you get the right enchantments, then it's not as bad.
And if you don't, you know, go out into a battle with a plain shirt and a belt.
Yeah, well, now we know like why people were so concerned about you specifically at E1.
They were
like,
so worried.
Yeah, but the thing is, you were like a pure rogue though, so that was it. It was like squishy. It was like you were like level 1 rogue in D&D. That's what you were. You were level 1 rogue, basically, absolutely, you know, very effective when you're dishing out damage. But if you at any point get cornered and hit, then it's night.
It was great though, because I know we're like going back to E1 here, but when I first went out, because we went to different lances, and I joined a lance, and they were like, yeah, just follow these guys if you get lost. And I was like, okay, yeah, great. And then I got split up very quickly because it was my first ever experience of being on a battlefield. And I was like, oh, those are the ones I meant to follow. Yeah, the ones in huge clank who were in the front the whole time. I was like, oh, I meant to follow them, so I guess I should be here.
Yeah, did we talk about lances last time? I think we did. I think we talked
we
about...
did, yeah, we did.
Because it was quite interesting, like, not really going with a lance this time, just, like, doing our own shit, because you had gone with... I'd gone in with the Durandal's lance, E1, and the Twisted Fang at E2, and you had gone with the Amber Lance at both events.
Both events, yeah.
So it was quite good, so we had a bit of a connection with a good chunk of the Dornish force in that respect as well. So I knew when I looked at certain people, I was like, oh, that must be Twisted Fang, that must be Amber Lance, because I knew the faces in all these different lances, which was really handy. But anyway, yeah, we left it off obviously at Brock's Toll. After Brock's Toll, Robin, what did we do after Brock's Toll?
Well, after Brock's Toll, we went and we sat down outside our tent, and we had a lovely little drink. We were joined by a friend who has confirmed I can say his name. So we were joined by Jamie, and I really needed a love story from the orcs. And what did I see across the other side of the glory square?
I'm saying we left off of Brock's Toll. You did talk about the orc that was pretending to be a noble.
Did I?
Yes, you did.
For some reason, I thought I was getting confused there. Sorry.
Yeah.
Because I thought we'd already said that, and then...
Yeah, it's fine. I already got... I was getting confused because of the Brock's Toll thing. I thought that's literally where we ended it. No, we ended it with you heading off to the orcs with Jamie.
Yes. So Jamie and I went off to the Imperial Orcs. Now, this was my first ever time going to the Imperial Orcs, and I was glad I had Jamie with me because he had a reason to go as well. Knew what he was doing, and he's a bit more of an experienced player, so I felt like I could just ask him a lot of questions on the way and get a good idea as to what I was doing. So heading in was quite easy, actually. We just walked in, and I was expecting to be like stopped or something, but we just walked in past the 2 orcs at the start. They were trading, and we just walked in, and yeah, it was nice and quiet. And very quickly we were approached by someone, and I explained the whole situation, that I was looking for love stories from the Imperial Orcs. Now, this is where we thought we were going to end up going on a bit of a hunt around all of Anvil, when they said there is a particular orc you need to speak to, then they have a story. but they've just left. And then Jamie went, oh, I know who that orc is. I recognized them leaving, so I know who we're looking for. So we started leaving, and then the egregore stopped us and asked us what we were doing there. And we explained, and instantly took us back into the camp and took us over to someone who had a wonderful story. I've not been able to find everybody online yet, so I'm not going to go using names or anything just now, just because I don't have that permission. But we headed in and we were sat down, and the egregore left and came back with more Imperial orcs, and it ended up with myself and Jamie sitting there, roughly 7 or 8 orcs, and we were all just sharing love stories. We got so many love stories, all a little bit different. Some of them were definitely beautiful love stories to Dawnish standards. A couple were more stories of lust, shall we say, but they were definitely fun to listen to.
Yeah, you get a lot of those.
And they asked for a story in return from Dawn. Now...
Oh, did they? You've not told me this.
Oh, they asked for a story in return.
Oh, shit. I wouldn't have been prepared for that.
Well, I was at first, I thought, well, I could tell them our story, but they already knew enough about us. They knew what I was doing. They knew what you were doing. So instead, so I do have the permission to use this character's name. I actually used the story of Tancred and Mera, their wedding. So I used
That's
their
a good
story.
Dawnish story, yeah.
Yeah, it was good because it had so much. Well, what I used was the story from the Testvarder, and because there was so much combat and fighting involved, everybody was like, yes, we love this. And they were all just really into this story and said, yeah, that's how you test someone. That's
Also,
how you prove it.
Yeah, it's in recent memory as well of Amber.
Yeah.
So there were probably people around that either would have heard of it or saw it happening in real time.
Exactly, yeah. So that was great fun. And then we'd come to the end of that. We had a couple of really strong drinks. I've learned my lesson about just drinking what people offer me, but still. And then I was like, oh, well, thank you all. We are going to head off now. What I will say is I took my notebook in to write everything down. And they were, I'm glad that I've learned so much about the Imperial Orcs just by being there, because I didn't know much before. And I learned a lot about how their names work, about how important it is to put all that information down. So I'm more prepared for next time. And Jamie and I were like, well, we'll see you all later. Thank you. And we went to leave. And then, well, they were really lovely. They asked about Godric, and they wanted to know a little bit about him. So I gave them a full description, detailing, what he normally wears, the weapons he carries. I told them that he's like an amazing fighter and that he's just brilliant.
Yeah, so we may as well just like jump ahead. So like when we met up later, Robin, you like told me all this stuff.
Yep.
Not even like, because you're telling it now with a little bit of like tongue in cheek, but you like without any like just pure naivety in character and out of character. You came to me and were like, oh yeah, we went to the orcs, they were great. You know what, they actually they even offered to escort me back to camp. And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah. Oh, and I told them all about you. They were very interested in you. I told them all about you. I told them what you looked like. Told them how good you were at fighting. Told them about your shield. And I'm like, I actually like, it was like out of character as well. I'm like, you do realize they were going to come and like beat me up and try to kill me, probably. And you're like, what? No, like totally.
Oh, they're lovely.
Totally not even in character. You're like, what? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, thankfully you didn't bring them back, because in character, I like Godric would have, yeah, obviously, fought for his honor and love of Varanel. But yeah, I totally know that, and we had this confirmed later on, didn't we? I knew
out of character there.
Yeah.
Spoke to
we may
us.
as well tell everyone this now. So yeah. Like at the end of the weekend, we bumped into the Imperial Orcs egregore out of character with no mask, and we then continued speaking about this, and I'd said that Robin had come up to me in character and been like, oh yeah, they were going to escort me home, and he confirmed. He was like, yeah, no, we were totally going to see if we can find you, and if you didn't have a shield, we were going to try and find another suitor for Aranel that was more worthy.
Well, what he said was, first of all, if you didn't have your shield, we would have called her a liar because she said you had the shield. Then we would have challenged you. And then if you weren't worthy, we would have gone and found her someone worthy.
Yeah. see, I knew out of character exactly what that meant when you were like, oh yeah, they were lovely. They wanted to escort me back home. I'm like, oh what? So yeah, you could have got Godric killed quite easily.
Jamie was there as well. He was probably like, does she know what she's doing?
yeah. No, it was funny because it was just there was no like you playing at it. It was just totally just oblivious. So that was a close escape for a Godric. It might still come back to bite him in the backside, and I think I did offer a favor. Like Godric's very bad at offering favors for things because he's probably not as charming as Aranel. So I have a habit of being like, I want this, and people, sometimes the other Imperial's a little bit mistrusting maybe of my friendliness, and it's totally in character. It's totally what you see is what you get with Godric. But I think some of them like, what's in it for me? And I'm just like, I'll do you a favor. I'll do you a favor. Come call on me anytime, and all these favors are gonna get shopped in all at once. I think it's gonna be bad. Well, while I say that, because while I've been going around these stories, what I do like about that, I mean, I'm kind of half kidding about the favor thing, but the thing with like military units, or people coming up to you going, oh yeah, do you have fleets? Do you have military units? We need these resources. So the military unit, people will obviously come up and be like, okay, and they'll have this like little pitch, like, oh, do you have a military unit? You'll be like, yeah, I have a military unit. Like, all right, well, we've got this campaign going on. We really need to do this because the Empire needs to do this, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, in roleplay, a military unit is like a load of people that you're in charge of. So I'm going to be like, in roleplay, I'm going to be very guarded with, my soldiers. I'm not just going to send them off because someone gave me a 2-minute pitch. And that's not, obviously, like, I'm not expecting people to come at me with like an hour pitch. That's not what I'm saying, obviously. But what I would prefer to do, so I actually sent them off with, I sent my military unit off with the Hounds of Glory. Literally because, well, one, there was like payment in it. But two, yeah, I have like, I feel like I know the general, Tancred, right, who's in charge of them. And I'm like, I've had experiences in Tancred's story. So, I've role-played with Tancred a fair bit. And I'm like, well, yeah, obviously I'll have some loyalty to someone I know. And I know, like you say, the test of Ardor and whatnot. So I'm invested in the general story. So yeah. I want to put my soldiers to that. With the favor thing, I think it'd be way better if people come up to me and go, oh, Godric, remember that time I gave you a love story for a favor? Well, I've got this problem and I need military units. That is good game then, because then I'm like, so I'm invested in their story and they're invested in my story. I'm willing to put my soldiers at risk and myself at risk to help out someone, rather than someone just coming up and being like, oh, hey, I've got we're doing this. The Thule are being bastards. Let's do this. And I'm like, I don't really care that much about the Thule. But if it's someone coming to me, especially with Godric's character, because he's very that way. If someone come up to me and be like, oh, I'm having problems with the Thule, and I'm invested in their story, their character story, I'm way more likely to go, yeah, of course. Here's my military unit. Take them.
Yeah, no, that does make sense, actually. I think that's a good point, actually, and a good use of, since Godric now owes favors to everyone.
No, not everyone yet. Not everyone yet.
Yet.
Yeah, not everyone. The thing is, because I'm not in character, like, rich. I'm not in character. I've not got the skills, like the trading skills or the religious skills, the political power or anything to offer anything else really. You know, I'm like, yeah, I can't be like, oh no, yeah, I'll get you an audience with the, you know, Knight Protector of whatever, you know, or I'll get you, you know, this resource, you know, because I just don't have those connections. But currently, what I'm doing is I'm at, well, we both are, I guess, where Godric's definitely in that moment where he's like networking, you know, so he's like, yeah, this is why it's a good test of metal, because it's basically making us go out and go, oh, you know, what can you do?
Like what I want to do, I know we're not on to like what we're doing next time or anything, but one of the things I'm currently trying to work out is a little like thank you type of thing, because RNL is the type to, you know, she'll just go back around to find all the people she got stories from and, you know, thank them for those stories and just like leave a little gift or something. I just don't want to accidentally make it look like a threat.
Yeah, well, well, you give out
a gift
flowers,
from Dawn.
Right? Yeah. Gift from Dawn. Send their regards. So, what did you learn about the Imperial Orcs as a culture? Then you said you learned about how their names work. What did you learn there?
Oh, put me on the spot now because I couldn't sit and recite everything because I don't have my book with me.
See, there you go.
Sorry.
There you go. Imperial Orcs listening. Didn't even pay attention to what you had to say. Just took what she needed and ran.
I've got all their names written down and everything, and in a way, but I wouldn't actually confidently be able to sit and answer.
It's fine. I'll save you. So I went off to the Brass Coast. And well, I won't put it in a nutshell. I'll tell you what I kind of did. I kind of just wandered around, and joined that there was a load of freeborn sitting around a fire singing songs, and I was like, oh well, and I just went and just sat and listened to them sing the songs, and as soon as the song was finished, I was just like the awkward, just like probably not. Godric didn't think he was awkward, but it probably was awkward. But I was like, oh, I'm sorry for interrupting. I am. And I stated my quest. I'm looking for stories of true love from around the Empire. Is there anything you can tell me about true love? And funnily enough, the Brass Coast is similar to the League in some of their attitudes towards true love. To Godric's just like, oh, okay. So yeah, the way they marry is usually very well thought out. The relationships are very well thought out, and they taught me the importance of contracts in the Brass Coast, and it was very thematic. In fact, actually, it was very much like Godric was in a bit of a musical, because I was like, oh, you have contracts? And they're like, oh no, contracts are very important. And they got a little songbook out, and they sung me a song about why the Brass Coast values contracts. I remember the chorus. The chorus went, in the Brass Coast, have you heard? Contracts are always preferred. And it was basically a story about, different parties getting into all these different types of relationships, and then throwing around accusations, being like, no, you broke your word. No, you broke your word. In the Brass Coast, have you heard? Contracts are always preferred. So it was like a little musical number, and then I understood why it was a big deal in the Brass Coast. And then I continued talking to another freeborn, continue talking about free love and what... so that they're not... just like the League, they're not very forthcoming. Well, the thing is, I'm saying they're not very forthcoming. They're probably not very forthcoming to outsiders, you know, especially from Dawn. Because the thing is, as soon as I sat down with my roses on, the thing is, I'm not a Dornish noble, but I must stick out like a sore thumb, because as soon as I sit down, they're like, I'm looking for stories of true love, and they're like, you're from Dawn, aren't you? Like, yeah, from Dawn. We started talking about marriage, and they went, yeah, well, we're going to a wedding right now, actually. I was like, oh, really? I was
how lucky is that?
Yeah, well, yeah, this was one stroke of luck that I had. And I was like, all right, well, they were like, well, it's invitation only, but you might see if you can sneak in. I'm like, yeah, I'll see if I can sneak in. So I just like followed the crowd, like some terrible, like in Shaun of the Dead where they're trying to like just pretend to be zombies. It was a bit like that. I just like dum 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 dum, and I got to the
Sun
door.
on your chest.
But yeah, just just not looking like a freeborn at all. And then I heard on the way, another stroke of luck. I heard en route to this wedding ceremony that I was going to try and get into, that it was between a brass coaster, a freeborn, and someone from the league. And I was like, oh, Kikabeo. So you say that that leaguers never marry. So this was a pattern that I was picking up from the league as well, is that they would say one thing and what actually happens is a different thing. That literally every leaguer I spoke to was like, leaguers don't marry outside the league. But I've heard like 3 different instances of leaguers marrying outside the league, and I was like, oh, this is juicy. I didn't sneak in because that's not Godric. I literally came to the door, and I just explained. I was just like, I'm sorry, I don't, because people are literally handing their invitations in, and I was like, I'm so sorry, I don't have an invitation. But and I just explained, and the person on the door was just like, that was the moment where someone went, because I didn't say I was from Dawn. I was like, oh, I'm actually I don't have an invitation, but I'm gathering love stories, and I would like to see what a wedding ceremony in the Brass Coast looks like. And he was like, Dawnish, aren't you? I'm like, yes, yes, I am. And he's like, come on in. And I was like, yeah. And there was drinks going around. There was like, yeah, people were handing out drinks. So I was like, oh, this is lovely. And the problem was, it wasn't like the biggest tent.
No.
It's big. Obviously, it was big, but compared to like a wedding outside of Anvil, it's not. I couldn't like hide in a corner. I was quite obviously there. It was like, so I just kind of I just kind of stood. I just stood next to the food, and the wedding ceremony was really beautiful, and I could tell that. And then I was there. I was trying to scribble down notes as best I could. It also helped that I had my notebook, and I did have by that time I had my pencil. It actually helped because it looked like I was, I wasn't being like dishonest with what I was doing. So it did look like if anyone saw me there, they were like, oh yeah, well, he's obviously like, documenting this. But there was the whole thing was about reading out the contract, and like out of character, it's obviously, it gives them a really good piece of game because the contract had, quite comedic parts to it.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna. I can't remember anyway. I can only paraphrase exactly what the contract would say, but it was like, would you promise to, put up with this part aspect of the way they are and things like that. So there was funny parts to it, and it was only for 2 years, I think. I'm saying only. So yeah, very undawnish. However, I'm like, right, I'm gonna have to like. There's definitely a love story here, and I'm gonna have to read between the lines. So it was like, it was trying to get all the things that were unsaid, and so it's something that is, I'm giving away too much to you now. So it's something that's leaguish is the rings, which was interesting because I was like, because I asked, I did speak to them after the fact, and the rings of loyalty. And I was like, oh, that's a virtue, and make sure, and that's a big deal. So the rings of loyalty are apparently a leaguish thing, and I'm like, well, that is a sign of true love in the league if you're willing to give a token of loyalty, which is a virtue. And yeah, there were songs sung that they had written for each other, and it was beautiful. And I did speak to them after. I'm not going to go any more into it. But yeah, I did get a love story. I haven't got it confirmed yet by Dornish Troubadour because I kind of ran out of time, because obviously it was their wedding, and I was like, they had lots of people coming around congratulating them. They wanted to drink and be merry, and they're having a good time. And I was like, well, I can't take up all their time. This is their wedding day. So I was like, I just grabbed them at the end and was like, just right after they did all their vows, the ceremony, I was like, hey, my name's Godric. And
Fucking hell.
looking for stories. I'm looking for stories of true love and things. That's the best time to get when they've just been married. It's the best time to catch someone in that romantic mood. And I was like, would you mind if I came back and found you? So, and then I came back to camp and you were there and you were like, oh, I was at the Orcs and I got a story. And
Since you mentioned the orcs again there, sorry, I've got my notebook. And because I wrote down, because the one thing I learned was how their names work. Obviously not very well because I don't have it committed to memory yet. I didn't want to muck it up though. So I learned about about Imperial orc names specifically, and that they have their legion name, which is kind of similar to humans' family name, but this is something that develops from them. It's to do with them fighting style. I'm really sorry if any Imperial orcs are listening and I'm butchering this, but the Legion name usually comes first when they introduce themselves. And the Legion name usually describes a bit more of their fighting style, and it's to do with the military side of it. And then it's followed by their personal name. And the interesting thing about the personal names, and the reason those were important, is because that's something that's only been a recent thing since they've gotten their freedom. And the personal names are really, really short names as well, mainly just one syllable. And I think, I could be wrong here, so please correct me. I believe that most people who are portraying more of a female type of character will go for 2 syllables. Could be wrong there.
Yeah.
Well, but that's what I've noted down, and that's how they introduce themselves. And I had no idea about this, and that's when they were like really being like, make sure you're writing those down because that is important in it. And now I realize obviously why that is so important. So that's the main thing that I learned from being there.
That's cool, but even if that's not 100% correct from the wiki, that's your in character experience. So yeah, that's Aranel's now understanding, because I've done the like I'm a terrible student. I was terrible at school. I never did my homework, right? So I just going onto I'll go onto the wiki if I'm like I've got an interest of something, but I purposely chose Godric as a character and his personality, so I didn't have to do it because I think it's just better game. Because I won't go through, because some people like to do that, because everything on the wiki it says, and even the Winds of Fortune and Winds of War, which is the continuing story of the campaign in between events, they literally say like it's up to you. You can read all this. It's completely up to you how much of this stuff your character knows.
Yeah.
And I think it's great if I'm like, yeah, that's just giving me a free pass not to read not to read it because I'm lazy.
I like learning things as I go. That's the thing. If I were to sit and read the wiki, obviously I check things I need to kind of double check, but if I were to sit and study the wiki, I'd probably forget a lot of it. But also I think that's what's more interesting, is getting to know people in that way, getting to know it from their point of view, because what I have found going to all these different nations, they all want to tell me about their nation, about, because it's something that they're all passionate about. They're there for a reason, and it comes across a lot better when you're just learning it in that sort of way.
Yeah. Also, you're learning their version as well.
Exactly.
Like you're learning that particular character's version of the Imperial Orcs culture.
Exactly.
It's not just this is just revised off the wiki, and therefore, because then literally everyone's just, it's not. What's wrong, doggy?
I can hear her.
Yeah,
what's she doing?
She's getting all grumpy because she's woken up and realized that she's locked in this room. Do you want to go out, or are you just going to settle down?
I'm sure she'll settle down.
I'm sure she'll settle down. We'll carry on. Yeah, it's So these experiences that we're talking about as well, and the things we learn, please bear in mind, listeners, as well, like this is our characters understanding, and we're like discovering this as we go. So this is kind of like how, I think I can speak for Robin here, like that's how we like to play the game. So yeah, don't take what we say as like, oh yeah, that is letter of the wiki or anything. We try and do our best to not give listeners like false information, obviously. But
Yeah.
so sometimes it will just be. I think it just makes a better story because there are some there are a few Empire specific content creators that make like literally like educational stuff on Empire that will go through all the rules and things like that. But for us, we're more kind of storytellers, aren't we? So
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, maybe at some point we might go down that route. By the minute, because we're just discovering
yeah,
everything and it's new, we're just excitedly being like, oh my gosh, I learned this
yeah,
when I went to this nation and they do this, and you
yeah.
know, and then just we'll add
Yeah.
to it in the future.
Oh yeah, one correction as well from last time. We were talking about like experience points and where we were spending them. Apparently, I called
Ah.
the. Apparently, I could because I didn't even notice till someone pointed out. Apparently, I called there's an ability called Dreadnought, which I usually call it Dreadnought, and it gives you an extra hit point for wearing actual metal armor, heavy metal armor. Apparently, I called it Juggernaut in the in the last. So it's Dreadnought, not Juggernaut. That gives you that 1 point.
Are you sure?
I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, after I was hanging out on the Brass Coast, I came back. So this is actually pretty late now because we've done a
This is
lot
late.
now on Saturday. We came back and, like I said in the last episode, I was already so tired from the Saturday battle and drinking heavily on the Friday and the Saturday. Sorry, the Thursday and the Friday.
Yeah.
So I came back, found you, and yeah, it was pretty much after that. It was like go have a couple of drinks, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was late at that point. We ended up having, I'm trying to think, because while I was away with the orcs, I then saw you after that. I just don't remember what we did at that point there, because then we did go off, I'm sure we went to do something, or
Yeah, I think I think we just hung out.
I think, we just hung out. We went to Songs and Stories, didn't we?
Oh yeah, no, yeah, we went to Song and Stories for a little bit. Yeah,
that's what we did. We
Yeah.
went. We went. We only went for a little bit though. I think we went just for a wander around.
yeah.
We got some drink. We went to Songs and Stories. We ended up in Wise Guys, and we ended up
And
just.
you got your lucky. I'm sure you took the lucky feat. You know, if there is such a thing. I feel like there is, and you've taken it, and you're just like, oh well, yeah. Let's you know, we've done a lot of like gathering stories, and we're both tired. Let's just go have a quiet drink at Wise Guys, and then we're sat there for about like 4 minutes, and a Dornish troubadour like wanders in and goes, oh yeah, do you want to have a drink? Blah, blah, blah. And we sat and had a drink with the Dornish troubadour, and you're like, oh, I got a story, and they're like, oh, tell me said story, and I'm like, oh my god. So you managed to just like, even though it was a cool, like, oh yeah, we'll not do any more of the Test of Metal. No, you're like firing on ahead.
I mean, you've got to take these opportunities when they arise.
You do. I mean, the one thing
I mean, they asked for the story.
No,
I'm
did,
not going to
yeah.
say no.
No. Well, that's why it was like, it wasn't as if you saw a Dornish troubadour, you jumped out your seat and went, oh, I've got a story to tell you. It literally just came up in conversation, you know? That's one thing I will say. Like, you do have to, like, in this game, you do have to like jump in with both feet, and some players have a lot of stuff going on. It is a short weekend to get so much stuff done.
Yeah.
And people will want to speak to you, and the more like hats you wear, and the more plates you have spinning, the less time you have in the weekend. And obviously, people would want to like enjoy themselves and have a drink. So yeah, it can be actually tricky to like pin people down and be like, I need to talk to you about this thing.
Definitely.
It's difficult, and sometimes you feel a little bit, because you get a bit of social anxious as well, you know? I mean, there's a lot of people that come across like, oh yeah, they just, you know, they're super confident, they just go and ask and get what they want. But yeah, you do sit there and you're like, oh yeah, I need to speak to that player over there, but they look busy, and you know, they probably don't want me like running out. They look like they've had a long day, especially when it's getting to like 10, 11 midnight on the Saturday, and you're like, oh, we're still in role play, so I can still like go and talk to this person about that. And you're like, then they probably just want to have a drink and chill out now.
Exactly. Because I mean, I was like that. I was just like, oh, I'm tired. I could do it. Yeah. Because I'm sure we went there we had quite a few drinks. Yeah, I think we just drank until we went to bed, and then I think that was that for the Saturday, I think.
Yeah, that was that. That was that. Do you want to take a little break and I'm gonna go get a drink?
Yes.
Yeah. Back 2 seconds. And we're back. Yeah, so Sunday we got up, did our usual coffee stuff, and we were monstering. So we were playing once again the Yagara, which are the defective marchers under the rule of the Jotun, orc barbarians.
We love the Jotun.
We love the Jotun. Yeah, so it was basically this seems to be like a pattern that's going on. So with they hand out masks for monstering. So every event, it's like they'll like give out masks on one day and not on the other. The day they're not handing out the masks, they have the Yagara. So because they're like they used to be marchers, now they're under the Jotun rule. I think it's because the kit of the marchers is generic enough. I'm sorry, I don't know if that's offensive, but it's that way that like kit's easy to get things to look marcherish. Maybe that's kind of why they've decided kind of out of like meta to do that. It just so happens that we always tend to fight the Druge, and we've always fought as Yugara, which is fine. I don't know if I'm like I might want to like throw an orc mask on one day, maybe join an elite monstering unit. I don't know. But we were Yagaro once again, which I was glad of, and I did not wear my armor because it was hot. So hot.
Yeah, it was pretty hot actually. I just went like light as well. Yeah. And just we went and we joined our skirmish crew, went to do some skirmishing.
Yeah, and so I this is where I got to use my two-handed weapon. My two-handed weapon. As my that's what my Yagara character likes to do. Although I did go through several Yagara characters during this battle. So yeah, I just went with my two-hander. You went your usual ambidextrousness, didn't you?
Yeah, I just went ambi.
Yeah.
But I decided to make myself even lighter, and I didn't bother with any of the because usually I have all like my sheaths and everything on me. I just took everything off and just took two swords.
Yeah.
I was like, meh, let's just go for it.
Yeah, I wore some of the polyplate again that they were handing out, and some people love the polyplate because they're like, oh yeah, it's lightweight and it looks really cool. I just don't like wearing it. Like, honestly, it reminds me of cosplay because a lot of that cosplay stuff is like either foam or what LARPers refer to as polyplate, which just like, it's just cast resin. And yeah, I remember wearing that doing cosplay and it going, this is so uncomfortable. And this, even though it's quite flexible, that stuff that they've got, it like I literally have bruises like underneath my armpits. But especially swinging a two-handed sword because it doesn't really fit you because it's like generic plate that they hand out. And because I had to like have my hands, like I kept crossing my hands because of the two-handed blade. I was constantly like pinching myself. So I don't think I'll be wearing it again.
No, I struggle with it. There's a couple of reasons I struggle with it. First of all, it's never really fit properly. Even when they just put on the half part and anything else across my chest, it just doesn't fit. It ends up hurting my collarbones or it moves around too much. But also I feel a little bit trapped in it. I do tend to feel a bit like my armor at the minute, my leather armor, I can get out of that pretty easily if I have to. It's a couple of straps and it's off. I really struggled with the plate and just felt just uncomfortable and not that safe in it.
Yeah, because you need someone to like literally strap it into you, don't you?
Yeah, it just wasn't for me.
Nah.
But it was fine. I wore my usual, so I was quite comfortable.
so yeah, we stuck together this time. Yeah, because we fought together on the Saturday and on the Sunday because we were like, oh yeah, on the Sunday we were like, yeah, let's just try and stick together. I'll be a skirmisher. I don't want to be a heavy.
That's the thing. There was a couple of new players as well that had sort of been with us and hanging around, and they were all going light skirmishy, and I was like, we'll go light skirmishy. And the new player that was actually with us ended up going to join the hospital lot. So it worked out really well. But then in our skirmish unit, there was another 2 brand new players. And they ended up hanging out with me quite a bit, which was quite cool because I got to be like, yeah, this is what we do here. And just like, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, it's quite funny how quickly you do move up that ladder, because you do end up, as soon as you've been to one event, and then you come, because there's always going to be new players at every event. So
yeah,
you know, there's always going to be someone, and if you've been to at least one other event, you know, there's something you can teach that new player. You know, it's quite incredible how quickly you rise up those rungs on that ladder of being able to help people. And the longer you've been, the more people you can help, which is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that I found really daunting at E1 when we were monstering is when they were like, they showed you the board, went, okay, these are your things. You've got, you know, cleave, stay with me, 4 hero points, 3 hit points, whatever. And then everyone was like, yep. And off they went. And I just remember being like, what did all that mean?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing,
it was
you
a
realize,
panic.
right?
And then like now it's like, oh, I've actually got a much better understanding, can remember it really quickly, I can explain it, and I know what to do when calls are said, which makes a big difference.
yeah, because that's the mistake that I imagine, I mean, I definitely made, is that you pick your abilities, but you research your own abilities, and then when you go to monster and they're like, oh, you've got all this, and you're just like, I don't know what any of that stuff is. Really, there's not that many of them. Like it's one, you know, because once you've been doing it for like 6 months or whatever, it's like, yeah, or you kind of been, you know, listening to all of it, you kind of you get it relatively quickly, I would say. You start understanding it a bit more, especially like the calls. There's not tons of them, you know. It's not like D&D where you've got like a million spells to and you shouldn't have to memorize that anyway, because you're always going to have like a book or some sort of resource there to remind yourself. But usually at LARP, you're not going to have the wiki on you at all times to be like, wait, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And then if someone calls it against you, you can be like, oh, what does that mean? What do I have to do? And the person doing the call is more than happy to, because they want you to take it, obviously. So they're more than happy to be like, oh, that means that you do this. But yeah, when you're monstering and you're like, oh wait, I have stay with me, I don't know what that does, and then you just end up not using it. Which, by the way, a look into the battle, nobody on my team used stay with me. It didn't matter because, you know, whatever, I was monstering, you respawn, but nobody was using stay with me.
Like, we went out together, and then someone on my team cleaved me, so thanks. So that split us up instantly, because I got carried to the hospital, which was like 3 miles away. A slight exaggerate, it was far away. Okay, it was a far way to hop, is what I'll say. I came back and I was like, well, can't find anyone I'm meant to be with. I saw the couple of new people and I was like, okay, we're skirmishing, let's skirmish, let's run around the side and do this. And then just with you saying that, with the stay with me, I ended up with a load of the Jotun instead. And a couple of the Jotun actually just kept getting me back up again.
On the Sunday, I had a great time. I did. I absolutely freaking I mean,
I had a great time,
I left my unit pretty much instantly, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful or anything, but like, we had a unit. There was supposed to be a plan. The plan wasn't being executed. And then I got literally executed and was like, yeah, sod it. And then and then I was just running around doing my own thing. This is a difficult battle to talk about, because I don't want to, like, I don't want to be unnecessarily critical to the people who are playing the Imperials, you know, but it's kind of difficult, honestly, because there was one of our main commander did say about the Imperials, which I do notice. So the Imperials tend to be, when you're playing your character, you tend to be overeager, you know, because they're wanting to get the objective done. Like the players that are monstering, we obviously want to win when we're monstering. That's the idea, you know. You're playing a game, but it's not really as important to the to the people, not the crew, maybe not the monstering crew, but the people that are monstering that day. It's not as important that you get, because you're, in the end, your character is part of the Empire. So the Empire tends to be overeager, and which means they make a lot of mistakes. And it's just, we were told, like, they're going to be eager, capitalize on their mistakes. And that's literally what we did. It was literally just about sitting back and waiting for them to fuck up, basically. And
I mean,
unfortunately, there was a lot.
maybe this will be quite useful actually for those who were Imperials that day, hearing it, like what it actually looked like to those of us who were monstering on the other side. Maybe it would be quite
Maybe it
useful.
would. Yeah, I think we go for it. If
Yeah.
people, yeah, okay. So like, if people are unhappy with what I'm saying or what you're saying, Robin, I'm pretty sure we'll be fine if you want to come up to us like and discuss it in
Oh yeah,
on the
definitely.
field. But we can just we can describe it from what our point of view anyway.
That's all we can do, really. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
Okay.
the thing that like stopped us because we were supposed to be skirmishing and we weren't really skirmishing. We were told, oh, we're skirmishing, and then we ended up in a line fight, and I was like, nah, sod this, and that's when we split up because we were like, nah, sod it. So me and someone else in our unit was like, I don't know what we're doing. I'm like, I don't know what we're doing. Then the winter markers pushed through, right, and we were it. There was literally just the end of a line, and we were just like I remember me and this other person, we just looked at each other and we just kind of shrugged and we're like, oh, whatever, I'll take that line, and we just strolled behind them. And it was just that. And unfortunately, like especially for Wintermark, that just happened all the time. They were just there was just the flanks were just open constantly, and you just walked around them. It was like I said, it was fun because we were winning, but yeah, it was literally just about like sitting back. And because we were and everyone was on that, even though I was like, oh yeah, the plan wasn't going to plan. We were skirmishing in that way where we were just like sitting back as an entire force and just waiting for the Imperials to make mistakes, and they were just making a lot of mistakes. And you were just capitalizing, and a lot of us had the same attitude because I was just
Yeah.
going berserker. So I literally would just run in, and as soon as I saw at the end of a line, a flank that was unguarded, or anywhere that I could just run up to an archer, I was just doing it. I was like, it's bad, but I was like, well, I'm just going to respawn. And if I respawn and that's the end of my, and I can't get back on the field, it's hot, whatever, I can have a chill out. So unfortunately, I was just running in and just doing massive damage, and literally everyone on the Yagara and Jotun side were doing the same. And it was just super effective against what it, because I don't even know what the Imperials were trying to achieve. That's the thing. I just knew that we were just going to go in there and kill Imperials. That was our
Yeah.
job. So
Yeah, and I mean, I had a similar thing after I sort of got myself healed up and came back. That's when I ended up doing pretty much what you did. I did a bit of skirmishing, and again, yeah, I was like, it was weird because we were like, oh, let's just go through these trees here, and we went round, and then we were there, and we kind of looked at each other, and we're like, none of these are all Imperials we're standing with, aren't they? And we're like, do we just, yeah, okay, let's just start fighting. And then we were just getting hits off and running off again,
yeah,
and just true skirmish style.
yeah,
But me personally, I don't like doing the skirmishing. I like being in the front line. So I ended up getting split off again, and there was a gap in the front, and it was all Jotun that were there. And I kind of came up, and one of them pretty much grabbed me and went, yep, you can fill the gap, and pushed me into it. And I went, okay. And then that's where things got quite hairy for the Imperials, because
it's the
we
bit. it's the whole thing.
wow, it was winter markers mainly. That there may have been people there who were not winter markers, so I'm sorry if that's the case, but all I saw was winter mark, and we ended up getting them into a donut very quickly.
Yeah.
And we were just standing there, and it was like, and you're probably going to mention this again later, actually, because we both had the same experience where we'd have like eye contact with one of them, and then they look away, and it was just like
this was a different. Yeah, this is a difficult thing that I kind of I spoke about a lot, and on the podcast I was like, should I speak about this? And no, that's
yeah,
that's why I'm a bit like humming and
yeah.
hawing, because it's okay to make mistakes. It's totally okay to make mistakes, but like you
yeah.
said, I think you convinced me by saying it might be valuable. Yeah, you and I both said that, and there was a few people that I spoke to about this, and yeah, sometimes like literally you'd be people were just losing focus. Like you'd be looking someone dead in the eye, and you're like, oh, I've got this big sword, and they're looking at you, and then they would just like turn around and then wander off, and you're like, okay, and then you just run through the gap, and then the Imperials were just like falling. Like
it wasn't
it was,
very, and I was trying to like kind of keep in character, because I was like, okay, right, we're here with the Jotun, we're actually meant to be quite honorable, we're meant to, our opponent is worthy of this fight, basically. And I was trying to keep that in mind, because at one point, and I'm going to make some assumptions here, that it might have actually been quite a lot of newer players there,
and
it was
yeah.
Oh, I think it looks like a scary situation, because I literally saw as one of the winter markers shouted over to someone being like, bring the shield forward, and they just shook their head and started stepping back, and I thought it looked a bit dangerous. And I literally turned to one of the Jotuns next to me, like out of character, and was like, are they okay in there? Because they're getting crushed. We're just casually walking, and they keep going back. And then the Jotun pointed out to me and went, see over there, that huge opening, we've left that gap so that people don't actually get hurt. So at any point they can actually go through that gap and they can flank us. And we've left it open intentionally.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, okay. And then it got to a point, and then I got to a bit point where we were like crushing right in. And I believe it was actually the leader on our side who came over and just said to all of us and just went, step back 10 paces and just give them a chance to come out.
Yeah.
So we did that, and we just all went, okay. And we stepped back and we gave them an opportunity to come out, because I mean, I think it was just, it went downhill really quickly.
Yeah. I mean, again, it was you're saying about like the Jotun. I mean, it's good that that's who the Imperials were fighting, because it gave us it gave us like a reason to do the whole, like, because I think that because there was literally like a handshake, wasn't there?
Oh,
for the retreat.
I heard that bit. I mean,
you were there for that bit, right?
Yeah. For the explanation, from the actual leader. So it was actually when we went about skirmishing, and we came on our side, and a whole load of Imperials were coming through, and the person in charge stopped us and went, we've had a handshake agreement with your, what's the correct term? The person in charge? The Field Marshal. So we've had a handshake agreement with the Field Marshal. They have granted us permission to safely flee, basically.
Yeah, the Jotun gave them permission to flee,
and they said, we're not going to attack you as long as the agreement is that we've not to attack. And we all went, okay, and we just stood and waited and watched them all kind of casually strolling back out. And I was just like, because at the time we were there, and I was like, what time is it? Because it doesn't feel like we've been here very long.
We weren't. It's because we weren't.
I just, honestly, during the battle, it was all like, oh my gosh, that was a lot of fun. That was quite easy. It was quite relaxed, a lot of it. And then afterwards, when we actually came back around, we were walking through Anvil, and we were all like smiley, and then we just saw the aftermath, and we're just like, oh.
Yeah. Can I talk about a little bit about what?
Sorry,
I was doing?
I totally cut over you. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. No, just before we like move on to the aftermath of the battle. I died 3 times because I was just like, sod it. Someone shot me with an arrow in the testicle, like. It kind of hurt, but I was like, it didn't hurt bad enough for me to be like, oh, I'm out of character hurt, and that was a dick move. Excuse the pun. So I just played to it and was just like, that's the cool thing about being a monster. You can do this like over dramatic death, because I was just I was having a whale of a time, because like you're saying with the donut, I wasn't lying, but I was skirmishing. So there was a point where we had the entire Imperial army just in this massive circle, and I was just running along the circle and just looking for opportunities, and I was just running with my 2-hander and just like go and just literally do like 3 hits just to panic an Imperial, and then as soon as they just went and then got their senses enough to fight me, I would just back out. I would just go whee and then just disappear, And then I was like, so I made a little game. I was like, right, I'm going to fight the Winter Markers, and then I'm going to go fight the Brass Coast, and then I'm going to go fight the
God.
Marchers. That's literally what I did. I spent a lot of time by the tree where the Marchers were, because the Marchers had a fair few like archers, and they were like next to the Brass Coast, if I can remember right. And there was quite a few archers there, which was fun. That's because I got shot like so many times. But it was quite funny just to like bait them, and then obviously I would just wait until, yeah, like you said, that some of them would just like stop paying attention, and I was like, well, here I go, and I would just, because I'm like, whatever, you know, I got killed every time I did it, but I'm just like, hey, like Archer, if you're not paying attention, I'm coming for you. And then as soon as they dropped their guard, or the people next to them weren't paying attention, and then the line opened up because they were walking forward, and I'm like, well, we've got the upper hand. Why are you making gaps? And just run in and go for it. So the third time I died, I was like, because at first you die and then we're like, right, okay, you know, respawn, go, and you would go out. The third time I died, I sat there like, all right, we've been told. So they were like, right, we've been told no more respawns currently. And that's when I realized that things weren't going well for the Imperials. I was like, oh, no more respawns currently. And they're like, yeah, we'll just wait. And then they were like, right, that's it, over. I'm like, really? Already?
It was,
like,
yeah, I
whoops.
mean, one of my favorite things though about monstering is the role play, is when they hit you and you're just giving them that whole like, you know, dramatic role play and everything, and you know, really making them like feel good, you know, about getting you and everything, because everyone who was there when they were monstering for us, there was some great role play moments. But
oh yeah. No, I like to give a monster performance that I would like to receive. If that's a weird sentence to say, but
wow.
You know what? I don't know. It wasn't dirty. It was just a weird sentence.
Sorry,
You making it dirty.
It sounds dirty.
It's not dirty at all. There's nothing about that sentence. So anyway, I mean, you're the one that had all the orc stories. I think they're the worst for those types of stories.
I don't know if I'm allowed to repeat
No!
What they said.
No,
But they did. They gave me something to spread around Anvil.
Yeah, it was gross. It was gross. You would definitely spread something with their methods anyway.
Whoa.
So yeah, like there was a few winter markers that I was just like, right, I'm just going to come in and I'm just going to give these players good games. So even though it's not like, if I was actually trying to win the fight, like with my, you know, two-handed sword, you know, it's about like, it's like point fighting. So you're like, okay, well, I'll just get you where you're not armored. But I think it's way more fun because they've got this shield and they're feeling like a hero. You're just like, I'm just going to go and like lightly hit the shield and just do these big like dramatic and just so they can feel like fucking heroes, you know. And and it's fun for me as well. I'm not saying, oh yeah, I'm letting them win or anything. I would still fight them, you know, if they let their guard down, I'd be like there. But it's cool to just be like and make them feel like they're actually fighting someone like in a bit of a theater, you know. And and then do that really frustrating thing where you're doing these big movements, you're like, rah, rah, and they're blocking everything, and then you just tap them on the wrist and go, cleave. they're like, ah.
Come on.
Come on.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, then when we headed out, it was we were like smiles, and we were like, oh, that was fun. And then we didn't even get into like the sort of in character area. We were just like right by like the food trucks and God and that, and like the tone just shifted. Like we were like, ooh, oh, what have we done?
It was like, quickly remove the red.
What have we done?
Remove all the monstering stuff. We're so sorry.
Yeah.
It was the best part was actually because we both decided then let's go get a shower because it was really hot and we were just knackered.
Yeah.
So I grabbed my full kit, my makeup box, a whole lot, and we headed over to the showers, but we have to walk through Wintermark to get there. And yeah, that was uncomfortable.
Yeah, so I mean, it was bad. I think there was a lot of people lost, obviously, and it was maybe a little bit exaggerated because, as you can, it's Robin opening a beer for the audio listeners.
You all love it, don't you?
Yeah, there was as the rumor mill churns, like we were hearing like massive numbers of like character deaths. I think there was a lot of downs. There was like,
Yeah, we were told later that those numbers were those that were down
yeah,
and like taken back, but didn't all die.
yeah.
Woo.
So anyway, that was an interesting tone to then come back to in character, and then obviously hearing all the stories, and then like after that we were like, right, well we may as well just like crack on with the test of metal stuff, which I was back to my unsuccessful ways. Go ahead.
I don't know if I can say it.
What?
Because the one thing that I don't know the information about, but not everybody who was meant to be fighting with the Imperials was fighting.
Oh no, yeah, we should definitely mention that because literally you brought it up earlier.
Yeah.
You actually, oh sorry, no, you alluded to it earlier. Do you want to
did,
explain this
didn't I?
then? Since you,
I don't know much about it, but I know that the Imperial.
say what your character knows.
My character knows that the Imperial orcs weren't going to be going out to fight. And I don't know all the ins and outs as to why.
They didn't come out to fight.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying is like I know what my character knew like before that, like that they weren't going to be going out to fight.
Listen, I didn't know that at all. I didn't know that in character at all.
Well, they'd mentioned it. They'd said because yeah, I can't remember who it was I was speaking to. I ended up speaking to like a lot of orcs there, and then some more outside. But it's more like they'd hinted and alluded to the fact that yeah, we won't be fighting.
Yeah.
And it was because of the particular job that was taken on, and it was to do with the Jotun and
Thule.
the Jotun being slaves. Oh,
it was a Thule.
Oh, I don't know then.
So the Empire has they have it's a trick because we're basically the Thule is another barbarian nation. And the Empire is basically doing business with them currently. We're not fighting with them. We've got agreements with them. Treaties is the word I'm looking for. We have treaties with the Thule currently. The Thule are taking slaves, and the Imperial Orcs. Robin alluded to this earlier. The Imperial Orcs are pretty in recent history are free slaves that have been given they've been given territory for the first time. So, you know, their slavery is very much in the forefront of their culture, very fresh. So they are unhappy with being part of the Empire and the Empire deciding to do business basically with the Thule. And they decided not to send their armies with the Imperial armies on the Sunday. So that very much, I mean, they are actually, I think they are actually the smallest nation, right? But that still would have made a massive difference on the battlefield. So I think, so literally a handful of Imperial Orcs showed up. Basically, almost the entirety of the Imperial Orcs didn't show up for the Sunday battle, which caused a lot of juicy drama on the Sunday.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lot of drama and a lot of nations on the Sunday.
Not that we were a part of it, but it was like...
Oh, we're fine.
Yeah, we were fine. We were just skipping along, doing our Dornish thing.
Being Dornish.
Yeah, I think it did affect the atmosphere a little bit when I was like walking around Anvil. It definitely, one place anyway, we'll just carry on and start speaking about it. So I went back to the Brass Coast to try and find my wedded couple from the day before, see if I could catch them. Aranel came with me, and I was like, well, I'm doing test of metal things, so basically like piss off because we're competing.
Pretty much just like piss off.
Yeah. Well, thing is, at this point, you are 3-0 up on me, and you're like, oh, let's just have a walk around. I'm like, no, I want to try to close the gap, right? So I'm like, I'm gonna go over here.
So he told me to bugger off, so I did that.
Yeah.
I was like, fine.
Yeah. So I was like, well, where are you gonna go? She was like, oh, well, I haven't got a story from Urizen. Where's Urizen? And I was like, well, Urizen's over there, and I wasn't gonna give her that much information. And I was like, yeah, Urizen's over there. I just pointed, and you didn't know in character, out character, where the Urizeni camp was or anything.
Pointing in a random direction.
Yeah, I just like, it's over there somewhere. So then I just go on like a wild goose chase trying to find people. and it just wasn't happening, you know. And there was lots of stuff going on. There was lots of stuff, you know, to do with the battle that had just happened. Obviously, the generals were in military council right after it. There was a lot of drama going on, and it was just basically all my conversations were just kind of fruitless. You know, I had some good conversations,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, and I was tired as well, like out of character tired, and I was like, oof, whatever. So by the time I'd gone around the Brass Coast like 3 or 4 times, I walked up to the Sentinel Gate. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to head to the marches and see what's going on there. And then who do I see coming back from that road up from like the marches, like from near the Sentinel Gate, but like Aranel with another character, and Aranel says to me, "Oh, there he is," and points to me, and she's like, "Oh, Godric, this is such and such, and Urizeni. They have a great love story," and I'm like, "What's the actual? What the
So
actual?"
rewind. After Godric pointed me off in a random direction, which wasn't Urizen, by the way, I started wandering, and I just bumped into a person and went, "Hi, is this Urizen?" And they went, "No, Urizen's just that bit over there." I was like, "Oh, thank you." And I walked in, I bumped into another person. I was like, "Hello, is this Urizen?" And then they were like, "Yes, this is Urizen." I was like, "Oh, great. I'm looking for Urizen love stories." And the person I was speaking to went, "Oh, I'm actually from the League, but my friend here probably has a great story for you." And then they went, "Oh yeah, I've got a great story. Come with me." And we went and we sat down and got out a notebook, and they proceeded to tell me this beautiful love story. It was their own love story. Also, if you're listening right now, feel free to shoot me a message so I can actually credit you at some point, because this was amazing. It was an amazing love story about a winter marker who fell in love with someone from Urizen. And it went, oh my gosh, the amount I learned about Urizen and about how love works and everything else was incredible. The story, perfect. And then at the end of it, they were like, "Oh, are you heading back to Dawn now? Can I come with you? I need to go do something." I was like, "Yes, let's go." And then on the way back, which was quite funny because they just finished telling me the story, and the person whom is their lover turned up, and I was like, "Oh, I feel like I already know you." And then we started walking back, and they went, "Oh, tell me your story then." I was like, "Oh, okay." And I told them the full story of Aranel and Godric. And just as I finished it, there was Godric. And I was like, "Oh, there he is now."
Wandering around like a lost puppy. Just, like...
So we headed to Dawn, and they were wonderful. They were like, "Are you okay? Do you have everything? Did you have everything in the notebook? Do I need to repeat anything? Or do you want me to tell it to the troubadour for you or anything?" I was like, "No, that's perfect. I've got everything. Thank you." And they had this beautiful artwork with them. So we were like looking at the artwork for a bit. And then I went off and I got that story confirmed.
And you got that story confirmed. Meanwhile, as we cross paths, I'm like, right, okay, well, I'm struggling in the Brass Coast because the Brass Coast was, I was like, right, I know I've got a decent story there somewhere. Again, like I pointed out my mistake from in the last couple of episodes of like, I should have just been more random instead of like chasing down one lead. I should have just been like, right, well, that's not fruitful. I'm just going to ask a random person, "Hey, do you know anything about love?" Like,
Fine.
like Aranel did. Okay, I've learnt my lesson. So as I passed those two, I went up to the marches, and I'm like, well, I'm going to head up to the marches. I went up to the marches. That was the worst time ever to go to the marches, probably.
Like ever.
Probably. It's probably even worse that I was Dornish. Like walking in there, they were having like a national meeting. All the egregores were like speaking, and they were all like in a semicircle around the egregores talking about what had just happened in the battle, because the marchers were not happy as a nation, like really not happy. And the atmosphere in there was just like, we're not happy. So I'm just like bouncing in with my like flower crown on, being like, stories of love. Because the entire nation seemed like focused on what the egregores were saying, and I'm like, so this is, yeah. And I was like, I'm just gonna sit around and have a listen, see if I can get some conversations going. But it was a no-go. It was like I realized how the more I listened, the more serious it was getting, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna leave this.
Picturing Godric Homer Simpsoning it out of there.
Yeah,
Basically.
pretty much, because I stuck out again like a sore thumb. I was just like, okay, this seems like very serious march of business. So I'm just going to head off back to camp. And we had I had a few more other conversations and other bits and pieces I could do, and that was kind of it for the weekend, really. You know.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I think I got that story confirmed, got my orc story confirmed, because the troubadour who had confirmed it hadn't actually yet, because the main part of it is that they need to go back to Lord Lupo and let him know. So they quite luckily for me, I literally got them just before timeout, and they were like, yeah, sure, and they ran over and they confirmed it. So I was really happy with that, obviously. And yeah, I mean, I think I just like hung around and chatted to people. The person from the league that I had met on the Friday had come to Dawn to speak to a few people just to say goodbye, and that they came up to say goodbye to us and everything. They were wonderful, some great conversations. Yeah, and I think that was it. We just started packing up.
Start packing up, and yeah, so because you looks like you're not going to say it, but yeah, you ended up 4-0 on me.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, 4-0, and yeah, I was like, because I mean, I wasn't surprised that you got 4. I was disappointed that I didn't get any confirmed. Like, I've got some, but I didn't get any confirmed. But I was actually like, with the trouble that I had getting them confirmed, or getting one that I thought would be good enough confirmed, I was actually shocked halfway through that you'd managed to get so many so quickly.
I'd been quite ruthless though when it came to it. Like, if somebody in a nation went, oh, I know there's a story between these people, if it took me more than like 5 minutes to try and figure out where they were, I just went on
Just
to another
moved on.
story.
It's what
Because
I
I was
done.
almost just like, well, there's going to be more than one love story.
Yeah, that's what I should have done.
And yeah, well,
it's what Godric could have done. I got good game, right? It's not the fact that I'm like, oh no, I failed. Like, Godric probably feels like he's failing. Well, he does feel like he's failing. I'm not saying probably. Like, I am Godric, right? So he feels like he's failing in this task. But the funny, like, because we're having fun telling these stories, right? Of, Godric doing daft things. So from out of character, I'm loving it. In character, I'm like, so I need to do better. So Godric's reflecting a lot in downtime, and hopefully coming back with some sort of strategy for E4 to see if he can get ahead.
Yeah, I think E4 for myself, I have, plans, obviously. And then after that, I am hoping to go around a lot of the nations again and take a few little thank you things. The thing is, I did have so much fun within the York camp. I want to go back there, but I'm also aware that I need to have someone else with me who's willing to kind of come in with me and things like that.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the case. Like, if you become friends in there, I don't think that actually is always the case. I think I mean, they've got issues at the minute, so there's plenty of opportunities for decent game with the orcs.
Yeah, maybe if anyone's listening, maybe I maybe I can just like head up there, because I want to do some trading anyway, because they do some great trading. So I was going to head there to some trading, but then yeah, if I can head in, I've already made some friends there, got a few things I want to take in, and then speak to people. That'd be cool. One thing that I've not actually mentioned over the podcast so far, one thing I had a lot of fun with was and I'm going to make it nice and vague and just say the Children of Dawn. I had a lot of fun with the Children of Dawn.
Children of Dawn. That sounds like some Lance or something.
I know, right?
Children of Dawn.
I don't want to mention any names here, but yeah, Children of Dawn, wonderful.
I'm actually because then they belong to Dawnish houses, but I don't think they're actually technically Children of Dawn. children of the
I
Empire.
know. I just wanted to kind of be like, get children
Yeah,
within
you mean
Dawn.
that the Dornish players in Dawn, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, without actually saying any names and things. I'm not
Obviously,
to
yeah,
mention
obviously,
anything where any of the kids are.
yeah.
But all I will say is, well, those of you listening, you'll know if it was your kids that ended up camped out with us for quite a bit. Great fun, great role play, and
Yeah.
I plan on giving them a little job to do at E4.
Yeah, so I love how the entire economy of the Empire goes through the hands of the children at Empire. Is quite hilarious.
I'm sorry. I know what you're going to say, but it's before you say that, I've just got this idea. I'm kind of like, and I feel like Lupo would approve of this if I get all the kids that I befriended last time and just get them to just sabotage every potential story you come across.
Yeah. I mean, I barely. I mean, if you put your mind to it, I think Aranel could just like totally destroy Godric, like emotionally. No.
Oh.
Playing
Sorry,
games.
you're right to say about the economics of the children.
Oh, that was it. Yeah, like I love how the entire economy pretty much goes through the hands of the children at Empire. One thing I do love that aspect of the setting is that like the children. So if you're a child in the Empire, it's a good mechanic for like out of character for the kids to be with their parents in a nation, but not be like, oh, I have to be in Dawn because my parents are in Dawn. You know, literally all the kids in the Empire are just Imperials and they go to the academy and then they have to like earn citizenship. So when they earn their citizenship and there's an age cap on it, basically to help, you know, them go, oh yeah, well now you're old enough to play the game properly and you can like choose your own nation now, you know. So even though a kid, because adoption is a big thing in the setting, it's a completely normalized adoption. So well, I was there with you actually when we were learning about the Orcish, or I'm saying the Orcish, the Imperial Orcs, how they. I'm saying actually that's probably correct. The first thing I said, because I think the Jotun do it. So the Jotun take in human children, adopt human children, and then once they're old enough, they go right off you go. You know, it's not even though we as the Empire class them as barbarians, that's a very unbarbarous thing to do of the Jotun.
No, it's quite interesting actually the way they work it with the kids. I mean, one thing that's definitely on my list and it's still on my list, I haven't created the opportunity for myself to go do it yet, and that is I want to do something with the academy. I don't know what that is yet, but I definitely do want to go and do something involving with the academy, because I think I'd have a lot of fun, to be honest, doing that.
We had our story so far talked about in a in-character newspaper in Dawn called the Dornish Herald. So we got a little write-up from our friend Janaea in Dawn.
Shania did a wonderful write-up in the Dornish Herald about our love story and more specifically our test of metal, and it was just wonderful. I just honestly, you managed to capture every single part of it and just write it in such a great way. It was I've got it, like, as I've got a little display in the corner of my room now with that sitting there.
That was like the first thing we did actually when we set out. We were like, because I think well, we saw Janae was like, oh yeah, you know, and then as soon as like timing came, like, oh, the Dornish Herald is there for you to buy, and we were like, right, straight over to the Dornish Herald.
That was the first thing we had to do. We were just like, we need this now because we're in it.
I like the in-character publications. There's lots of them as well.
I found out that in most nations, apart from Dawn, if there's one in Dawn, let me know. But there's basically like like in-character smut in every single nation that I came across. Like there was a burlesque sort of like drawings and things, and some of them it was like erotic stories and tales. Honestly, I was getting this offered to me in every nation. It got to the point where I was like, I'm going to come back at the end of this freaking test of metal and be like, hey, I don't have any love stories, but I have a pile of porn. Will that get me into the house?
Well, I mean, because so one of the places that one of the groups that I spoke to in the league during my excursion out there was the group that does the Looking Glass, which is a leaguish publication. And although I haven't purchased one or read it in character, I think that's down that kind of vein. Not just all smart, I don't think, but yeah, it's different.
No, it's not. The Looking Glass actually. Oh, yeah, you just reminded me of stuff with the Looking Glass, because they had recently put something online about it that I'm meant to be sending them something for that. So I need to get on that. Yes.
Really? Ooh.
Yeah. Well, you and I.
Oh, really?
I told you about it.
Oh, probably. I just can't remember. That's one
but
thing.
Yes, I want an excuse to go and chat to them.
Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed as well. After our third event, I've been way more confident, kind of in downtime. I've been doing quite a bit of like in character mail, because I'm like, okay, well, like doing stuff, especially things like writing things down and planning things out, because I made those mistakes in character at E3, and I was like, okay, well, you know what? I know some of these people, and I'm a bit more confident to be like to people who I don't know, being like, hey, you want some in character mail, you know? And because you like, so people who aren't Empire people listening to this, you can't, like, on Facebook and forums, it's against the rules to speak in character on, you know, on a public platform. Or not, you can speak in character on a public platform, but what I mean is, like, it's not, you can't just go, oh yeah, we had this conversation in a Facebook comment thread, therefore it's in character, and therefore this is what's happening in Empire. No, like, it needs to be done in character. So people usually like send each other in character mail, whether that's like digital or analog. But yeah, I've been sending a lot more mail as well, so, which is good, because now I have things to, I've kind of lined things up, so as soon as E4 hits, I can go speak to people about stuff, you know. Which is
exactly.
Nice.
Sorry, is my mic picking up the sound of the extremely heavy rain outside? Because
no,
all I can hear.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing is, I can't hear on your mic, but obviously we're in the same place, so I can hear it outside as well. So that's
sorry,
probably,
I was just like,
yeah, this is probably the first rain we've had in weeks. It's crazy. Also, I'm going. So it's behind me, so I can remember it. We both got handed a copy of The Tale of Sir Toots. I'm gonna go read it before we wrap up the podcast.
Let's do it. That's a wonderful way, I think, to wrap everything up.
Okay, so Sir Toots. So this was the story written by the troubadour that took part in the trial of troubadours and chose Godric as his champion to write the story about. Even though, I mean, it's titled Sir Toots. I mean, I'm not gonna. Godric doesn't mind that it's about Sir Toots. Oliver might mind that it's not titled Godric, but anyway. So this is Sir Duncan Toots by Killian Mortaire. Performance voice on. Here is the tale of Sir Duncan Toots, a proud ceramic elephant, and his friend in glory, Godric, the pair as mighty as a regiment. Sir Duncan Toots fought the Druge. Sir Duncan Toots held the line. Sir Duncan parried every blade. Sir Duncan Toots was fine. Sir Duncan Toots fought the Druge, strapped to brave Godric's plate. Sir Duncan charged into the woods. His ambition would not abate. Sir Duncan Toots fought the Druge. He left his allies' sight. Sir Duncan charged with glory to the thickest of the fight. Brave Godric could not find him. He was nowhere to be found until, next to a pile of slaughtered Druge, Sir Duncan shattered on the ground.
Why did you have to say that?
It was great. Thank you, Killian Mortaire.
Yeah, it's fucking beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah,
Killian, thanks.
It's great. So it's I'm gonna put it back up. So for audio listeners, it's right behind my camera.
Yeah, audio listeners, we've got it up on a lovely Seychelles pint. Oliver held with the D20 magnet.
Held with the D20 magnet. Do you want to do a quick wrap up?
Yeah.
What we thought of E3 and what we want to do for next time.
Okay. Yeah, E3 for myself anyway, it was incredible because I got to meet so many people from so many nations that I never would have gone to before if it wasn't for the wonderful Tesla metal that was given to me. So it was just incredible with that. I had so much fun fighting. I really enjoyed us fighting together. That was one of the highlights, actually, which is strange because we've always fought apart. So I enjoyed that. And I took every opportunity to fight within the Glory Square, every single opportunity. And I will probably be doing that again. So E4, I will definitely be again fighting as much as possible in the Glory Square. I have a couple of things that I'm working on that I will keep to myself until after E4, because hopefully I will get to tell you lovely people what they are once they've actually happened, along with continuing our tests of metal.
Yeah, I also enjoyed. I really liked the Saturday battle. The Saturday battle was definitely up there for me. I loved the little interactions I had with so many different players this time. There's not one big, oh yeah, this moment was a highlight like it was at E1 or E2. There's no one big like, oh yeah, this test of Arda we saw, or this tournament I was in. But a lot of what I liked about E3 was all these little conversations, whether it was like fruitful for Godric or not. It was definitely valuable to me as a player. All those little things that I could see other players were getting value out of it, and so was I. Yeah, the Saturday battle was absolutely immense. I love that. I loved. Well, I think for next time, for next time, I think I've said several times throughout the past few episodes what I want to improve on as a player and as a character. Be more prepared. Just got to kind of dive in and be a little bit more. Don't chase down those kind of leads. Because you're so far ahead of me, I kind of need to just concentrate on the test of metal. I don't really want to plan too much else. I have a few other things in the woodwork for E4, but I'm probably going to take advantage of the fact that you have other plans to try and get ahead of you, and that's pretty much what the plan is. Crafting wise, I think I've got a few projects in my head. I'm not certain what I want to do crafting wise for the next time, but yeah, I'm just looking forward to. Yeah, I think E4 is going to be a culmination as well of everything that we've done in our first year of Empire, and I am dreading. I'm dreading, like, the end, where we have then a 6-month gap between E4 and E1 next year, because we've literally just started this hobby and now we've just got used to there being an event every 6 weeks, and you're like, yay. And yeah, I'm dreading that first experience of being like, oh, no more now until a long time.
Yeah.
Great. Do you want to say goodbye?
Yeah, thank you all for listening and or watching, and yeah, we'll see you next time.
Okay.
Bye.
See you at E4, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this show, make sure that you follow and subscribe so you know when a new episode is posted. You can leave a review, you can share it around. It would really help us out, and we appreciate you doing that. And remember, you can catch us live on twitch.tv/2have_2roll. That's the number 2, and roll is into roleplay. Thank you very much for listening.